Okay, everybody, how you doing? My name is Tim, and welcome to basically my part 2 of this drawing. I just finished recording the inking process that I did here, and now I'm going to go ahead and go in with my basic color tones, just doing flat tones, and we'll see if I make that its own episode or, how I play this out. I'm having fun making videos for you guys tonight, so thank you for hanging out with me. If you do enjoy this and you haven't subscribed yet, or as we like to say, subscribble, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel or subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I love answering your questions, especially when it comes to art. So I have this great guy that I just finished drawing up here, and it's time to go ahead and put in the flat tones of color. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, I have tons of videos talking about how I color things, and this is just going to be another one of them. But who knows that you stumbled on this one and you've enjoyed watching me draw this guy's face. I may as well keep going with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with it, and you guys can play along if you enjoy it. And if not, then I have tons of other videos for you, so I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, I'm just going to get right down to the color here. I feel very, very good at everything I've drawn so far. So I'm going to go ahead here and make a new folder on this layer panel. Take all of my inked layers, and I'll toss them into the folder and close that up. That way I don't affect them. I could even lock it if I wanted to, which I don't need to do that. As long as I get them out of the way, that's what's important. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer underneath them so that they're underneath the inked lines, and I'll go ahead and start applying color. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layer, and I'm going to go ahead and select this as set as reference layer. And that's going to make sure that anything that I decide to do with a paint bucket tool or whatever reads the original inking that I put down here. It's going to help it out a lot. As I mentioned in the previous video, I do have this separate image up to the side just to kind of help me see things from far away, or see things if I'm zoomed in a key area and I just want to see how it's still affecting the overall face. I don't do this all the time. I'm pretty lazy. One more thing I forgot to mention. If you have not watched the previous video, the reason why I'm being so quiet, it's 11:41 p.m. My wife is supposed to be fast asleep, and I'm hoping I'm not waking her up. Thanks for hanging out with me in my slightly unprofessional video, considering that we're about to hit 10,000 subscribers. I think being more professional would be kind of important right now, but that's not what I'm doing because I just want to make some videos for you guys. So there, can't deal with it? Go find another video. I love you guys. You can stick around. It's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with these colors. Alright, so now that I've selected this layer to read with the reference, I'll just make sure that my paint bucket tool has the refer only to editing layer. And if I come down here to this multiple selection, there's one right here called reference layer, and I got that clicked. So I can go ahead and start applying my colors and just knocking them right in. So I'll get a skin tone that comes with the Clip Studio Paint Pro, and I'll just go ahead and start knocking in colors. So here we go. Now things are going to fill out kind of crazy, and it may load to a black screen because I am doing this image at a super mega high resolution, if you know what I mean. And as you can see, certain things got filled in, certain things didn't. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through here and just kind of top off on a couple things, and then I'll go in and I'll clean things up a little bit more in a second here. I just want to make sure that the bulk of this is done instead of trying to hand paint this, which would take forever, which is what I used to do. Now that I got that down, I'm going to go ahead and just take my G pen and quickly just fill in the remaining white spots that may have been left behind here. And it's very, very quick and simple, and that's the whole idea. When it comes to drawing caricatures, you draw fast, you draw hard, you get things done quickly so you can move on to the next person. But your goal is to give these people the very best piece you can. Okay, so I feel pretty good about how much I filled this stuff in here. There's no other skin tones at this point in time that I need to worry about, so I think I'm going to go ahead and worry about the eyes and the teeth next. This is honestly my favorite part. Down here I have a gray tone, which is like a grayish blue tone, and on a brand new layer above the skin layer, I'll go ahead and fill in these eyes with this layer of gray. Okay, and I'll explain why in a little bit. I have a whole bunch of tutorials. I got a full-blown advanced tutorial waiting for you guys on Patreon if you become patrons, teaching you how I do like super detailed ornate eyes, and it's a really, really fun tutorial. I've gotten a lot of people who have left me messages thanking me for it, which I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. That's so generous of you guys. I used to sell all those tutorials for like $5, $6, $7, and I decided I really wanted to make all those tutorials for free for you guys who are supporting me as patrons. So become a patron, it'll be waiting for you. There's a link to my website, and if you go to that website and you have the password that I have for all of my patrons, you can just log right in there, and it's all there waiting for you. So get these teeth painted up in the gray, and there you go. So it's starting to look kind of freaky. All I got to do, though, is lock the transparency, and you can see here, see if it brings up the texts. Lock layer, lock transparent pixel. So now that I have that locked, now I can go in here with some white and my airbrush, making sure it's on a soft setting, and I'm just going to go ahead and very carefully with this brush knock in some white. Not going completely over the gray. I want to leave some gray behind. I think it looks kind of cool like that. So leaving some of the gray behind. Same thing down here with the teeth. It's just going to give it this really great 3D effect. And then in a second here, in a very short second, I'm going to go in with another technique that I do for shading that just makes it pop like crazy. Let's do another layer and start working on the beard. And that's a tone that I'm going to make myself. So we'll do, it's kind of a brown, but kind of a tan. So it's kind of in maybe this realm, maybe a bit darker, about there. We'll do with that and see if I need to add highlights after the fact. And then just grabbing my brush here, since there's no real connected lines, I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in with color by hand, which can take a little bit longer. But there's no real other way to do it other than to use my selection tool and select things, and I find that that is going to make my lines look a little bit more jagged than it would if I just hand painted them with a high stabilization in my brush. So that's why I'm going about this method. And I told you guys in the previous video, one of the things that I want to make sure of is that I show that his skin is kind of going into this hair. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Now, this is not a technique that I have finalized, if you will. This is not one where I'm like, I'm going to be doing this one forever for the rest of my days. This is my, this is going to get me by technique. When it comes to doing, you know, like a fade of skin into hair and stuff like that. And it's not a great technique, but it works for the most part. I'm going to leave some of this lip here, and I think I'm going to do that quickly by just erasing some of what I just did. And it helps if you also have the stabilization also turned on in your eraser. So my stabilization is 35 right now, which is super high. It's basically meaning that the computer is cleaning up all of my lines and making them look basically vectored. As clean as humanly possible, without feeling like I'm losing my own personal touch in the design. Okay, let's pull this down here. This goes this way and down here. Okay, and then this is going to be much, much lighter, but for now, I'll go ahead and do this. And I'm just going to create this circle around here. And my goal is to make sure that some of that skin survives there. Same as going up this way. And actually I'm going to pull it up just a little bit higher, and then I'm going to drop this one down. Oops, just a little bit lower. Okay, for the most part that looks okay. What I'm going to do now, since I'm trying to make sure it looks faded, is I'm just going to grab my mixing tool here. I'm just going to grab some of this and pull it into itself. Just like this. Like I said, this is not a perfect technique. This is a technique that's going to get me by. And you can see it works for the most part. And if I feel I need to, I can do it in different parts of the beard. I try not to become too detail-oriented in this, because my style that I've been doing more recently is a rushed kind of style that does not require a lot of gradient shading, which I think is very key. If you're going to be a caricature artist, you need to come up with a technique that you can do quickly, and I still can't quite do it quick enough. I'll be quite honest with you. A commission for me these days usually takes about 3 days to draw. And I know you're going like, what, really? You're going at this so fast, but when you're dealing with the client, when you're trying to show them the artwork and what you're trying to complete for them, and all the different little details that go into it, it's a very, very detailed, elaborate process. If you're doing simple stuff, it's really easy to knock a commission out in a day, but if you're doing very, very detailed work, then there's a lot to be done. Now I'm noticing deeper areas of his beard, so I'm going to go ahead and lock the transparency on that layer. I'm going to select his beard color. I'm going to go a few shades into the black a little bit more. And then I'm just going to vector those lines in, and I think that'll look pretty cool. So considering where the shadows are on his face, the reason why I'm doing this is to kind of pull that shaping out. Like here, I can definitely see it kind of beginning to go up into his laugh lines, into his mustache, so I just kind of want to capture that a little bit. And then on the other side, I don't see it, but I know it's there, so I'm just going to kind of define it out that way as well and kind of work it up into the mustache section. And then right here underneath the nose, I can kind of keep the momentum of the direction of the hair going by doing that same thing under the nose, but I'm going to do a different shading technique underneath the nose here in just a second. I'm going to unlock my transparency layer and clean up some of this junk here. Don't need to do much, and I may just do kind of some negative space shading, which basically means I stop focusing on one color and I focus on the other one. So instead of looking at the beard color, I'm looking at the skin and how it's going to mix into that. I think we're getting somewhere. Clean up some of this blending. I'm not liking the blending too much. There we go. I do like that though. I like that a lot. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut into this just a little bit more, and as I get over here, just kind of cut into that a little bit more, and that's looking really great. I think this is a good opportunity to save. Don't be afraid to save, please. So save as, and I'm going to go into my external hard drive that I take with me everywhere I go, and client art, and this guy is Mike. So I'm gonna grab my keyboard. The only time I've used my keyboard tonight so far. New Michael Snyder. Okay, and I can go in here and save this as Snyder face. Doesn't matter, you save it whatever you want, and I'm going to end up drawing the body in this one as well, but for right now this is just the face. So that's kind of just a personal note for me. So far, I really like it, and I think coloring in his eyes is really going to make it pop as well. I'm seeing a lot of depth in his eyes, so I think that's going to be kind of fun to get that in there. It's a deep blue, and it's got a little kind of brightened effect that I think we can make stand out kind of cool. Okay, so we're back at it. Everything is saved up. So let's go ahead and continue the coloring process. I'm just going to go ahead and knock in a gray for his ball cap. Still using those referenced layers that I was talking about earlier. And I'm noticing that the top of the cap is black, so I'm just going to go ahead and toss that in the top of the brim. There we go. And like I said before, just clean up little details like this tucked in over here. And then the bottom of the cap is a light gray, so I'll go for a light gray. And on a new layer, toss that in onto the bottom there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Even lighter. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Okay, so that's done. I think we can go ahead and work on the eyes really quick, and then I'll go ahead and do my shading technique. So let's go ahead and move into the eyeballs themselves. Zoom in nice and close. I'm going to start with a basic blue tone just to kind of get myself a feel for what I'm looking for. and erase this out and down. Just kind of clean it up so it looks on purpose. Oh, not too much. Good. Nope, too much. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now what I can do here, since this is a little overblown out, I can go ahead and adjust it with my tone correction. So I'll just do hue and saturation. And I'm going to just feel my way through this color. And I'm noticing blue and green is going to be kind of the direction I need to go with the eyes to really make it work. So I'm going to go here, and I want to remove some of the saturation and some of the brightness, because I'm going to actually add it back in with a more of a blue in a second here. So that looks really good. Let me move over to the other eye and fill it in with that same color just by alt selecting it. And here we go with the other eye. Same thing, just kind of fill it in willy-nilly. Who cares? Because I'm going to kind of draw it in where I want it to be, just like this. Okay. Too much? Just right. Okay. Now I can lock off that transparency layer, and I can start messing with my idea of applying more blue and getting more details in there. So just kind of going in with some blue and more of a deep blue, just to kind of make the eyes kind of gradient out towards that green hue that I was thinking about before. Okay. Whoa, I just shifted his whole face. There we go. Alright, so that's beginning to get a little bit closer. I'm noticing a lot of white, so highlights. So what I'm going to do is make a new layer over top of everything. So I want it to actually affect even my outlines, because what I'm going to do here is just put in a couple dots of white and directly over top, like these black dots. And I'm just going to do a couple different sizes along here. The more highlights you put in, the more points of light need to be considered. And I think that looks really, really good. So I'll go back over here a little bit more, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more of a haze to his eyes, like a little bit more of a white touch to it. If I really wanted to, I could even multiply the layer, so I have another layer, and then I'll clear everything in that layer. Now, if I clear it now, it's going to literally clear to nothing, and the whole idea of copying it's kind of useless. So what I can do instead is I can right-click on this layer, and I can tell it to selection from layer, create, and it's going to put these creation lines around that. That's going to be great, and I'll make it a mask. And then once I've made that mask, then I can release the transparency lock, and I can clear the image. So now there's nothing on that layer, and I can work with it as I want. So what I was thinking I would do is I would try something like this. Looking at his eyes, I'm just seeing this kind of shape like this. Literally kind of like that. And then I can just drop the opacity down, just kind of like that. Just a little gentle hue, and that may add or subtract from his eyes a bit too much, I don't know. I can also change to a couple different things, like here's glow, so it'll over and intensify, add glow. It's going to do the same thing, overlay. I always try a couple different ones just to see if there's any one particular one that I'm interested in. Hard light, lighten, linear burn, subtract. Subtract would be cool going the opposite direction. Darken, no. Screen? Screen could work. I may be overthinking this just because I'm on a YouTube video. I'm going to leave that like that for now. And I think that that's a pretty good start. Let's go ahead and start working on the shadows. So shadows I do with a red hue. I like warm shadows. So what I'll do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to drag that layer underneath my inked layer, okay? So the inked layer is going to sit above it. That way I don't have to worry about it overlapping over those. Grab a deep warm red, like a deep red lipstick of some sort like this. The name is not coming to mind at the moment of how deep this red is. And I'm just going to basically color in where the shadow is supposed to be. Okay. Maroon, is that what I'm thinking of? More of a maroon? I'm getting a little tired, so my brain's starting to fry. It's getting late, and it's getting close to my bedtime. I should probably start thinking about heading that way. But I'm having fun. Thank you for sitting with me and watching these videos. I hope that you enjoy it. If you're on my live stream right now and you're wondering why I'm not talking to you, it's because I'm so focused on this. But I do find that being on live stream when I do these recordings makes me a little bit more conversational, because I know that I think that people are watching. I hope that people are watching. I know the world doesn't quite revolve around me, but it's always nice to think that people are watching. So I know it looks kind of freaky with how I'm coloring this in here. Definitely does not look in place, correct? I mean, just this hardcore deep red just does not seem to fit. But you'll see here in a second that what I'll do is I'll change my opacity, and I'm also going to change the what I call the attribute of the layer attributes, and that's like what we were talking about with the eyes just a second ago, where we were doing the would it work better as an overlay or a multiply or a screen or add glow or whatever the case may be. Basically, I changed this to a multiply and I drop its layer. And multiply means it's going to read off the bottom and multiply on top of it so that the color is affected, and it's going to basically deepen everything into deeper hues, and it makes it look really cool. And depending on if you want more cool tones, like if you're using a blue to create the cool tones or a red to create these hot tones like I like, then that's really going to help you get that push in the direction that you may be looking for when it comes to enhancing your piece. So far so good here. I feel really good about this. I'm just trying to finalize all of my shadows. And the nice thing is, for the most part, I only do like one layer of shadows. I'll do one very, very simple layer of highlight, and of course all my base tones, which really, I guess I was going to do just a discussion on base tones, but you know what? I'm just going to go all the way here and finish this face out to as much as I feel it needs to be finished out to be a good face commission, and then from there we'll stop the video and we'll see if maybe I come back and finish this piece on here, or if you guys will be left in the dark. But if you did enjoy this video, the like button would be very helpful. I love knowing that you guys enjoy this. Thank you so much for getting me so close to 10,000 subscribers. I don't know how that happened, but I am so blessed because of you guys. The opportunity of thinking that I literally have a stadium of people who watch my videos. That just blows my mind, and it excites me. So thank you so very much. You can see I'm going over the teeth a little bit, and I'm actually going to go ahead and start working on the eyeball now too. The eyelashes in your eye cause a shadow on the eye itself, so I also try to put a little bit of this on the eye itself, and you'll see it adds this really cool effect once I dim things down. And that's also why I would like having the highlight in there above all the other layers, because then when I put in my shadow, which is below my inked layers, the highlight isn't affected, which is definitely a plus. I'm going to leave that blank for now. I think that looks pretty good. I do need to start defining out the laugh lines here so I can fill this in and kind of take this down into the mustache. And I'm just going to let that mustache resolve it and calm it down. And for the other side, it's there, but it's very, very minimal. So I think just that gentle color is going to do a lot of good. All a learning experience. You'll figure it all out in time. Just be patient. Don't be afraid to mess up here and there. And then some very, very minimal age lines, just to show a little bit of age. Not terrible, though. Okay, let's see how it looks after we drop the opacity. So if we drop the opacity, it looks really, really good, but it does seem a little overly red. So if I hit multiply, everything gets nice and dark, and then I can make adjustments to kind of make it seem a little bit more natural, which looks really, really good. And once I've done this, then I can go back in here with that same red or magenta or whatever tone this is, and I can continue my process of trying to feel out those features in the face that I think need to kind of carry the shape around his face a little bit. And then once I'm done with this, then I'll go ahead and knock in the here we go, knock in some highlights, and his face will pretty much be close to being done. Just trying to get this nice little build up here. And I always hope that the shadows and the highlights tease each other enough to actually cause my effect that I need to make the beard look more reasonable, you know. So I think that's beginning to look really, really good. Trying to look at the shadows and the highlights and things like that, trying to make sure I'm capturing as much depth as I need to. I think that looks really good. And then let's put in some highlights here real quick, and maybe we'll call this face done. And basically all I'm going to do is just in the areas where I think the sun it would hit, I'm just going to put a couple dots of white here and there. And if I'm really, really desperate, I might put just a little bit of a white hue in there. Something else I can do real quick is put in some blood in his face. Just kind of helps him look a little bit more alive. And if you do too much, it makes him look drunk, which I'm certain he wouldn't want. So I'll just take this here and I'll blow up the airbrush pretty big, and I'll just do a couple passes over the cheeks, like that, over the tip of the nose, and over the chin, anywhere where blood's going to kind of rush into a key area. And then while that's in there, I'll go ahead and take my eraser and clean up where I don't want it, like off the paper itself here, for instance. I could also have done it on the tip of his ear too. Let's go ahead and do that real quick too. Now, off the tip of his ear is kind of a dangerous place because your ears get hot if you get drunk. So that means that your ears are going to turn red a little bit if you get drunk, and that's obviously not good. And with highlight in here like this, that's also going to play an effect which could make it look more like Santa Claus, Jolly Saint Nick. So you gotta be careful with how you play these things out. I can just drop the opacity on this though and just do just a little bit, just enough so it stands out. And if I feel like I need to, I can even change it to multiply or something to make it feel like it's a little bit more sunken in. Give it that nice effect like that. And that looks really, really, really good. There's a lot of depth in the face there. Maybe I'll just add a little bit more down here beneath the lips or something. And actually the lips need a little bit of color themselves. So while I'm still here, I can actually use this exact same tone and even stay in the same layer and just add in just a little bit of lip tone here, kind of build that up a little. Take my eraser and just clean up the teeth a little. And that should look really, really good. It's starting to have a really positive effect. I know the lip looks a little weird. That would need to be adjusted in the ink layers. So I'll go through my ink layers and find out which one it is. And quickly just erase this line. Kind of like that. And then with the same ink, and I'll make sure to use the same color by selecting it, I'm just going to quickly draw a new lip line. Comes down just a little bit further. His lips aren't really that big, so I need to be careful with how much I deal with this. The other thing I can do here is take this laugh line, select it like this, not laugh line, but part of the shape of the face, and move it up towards the lips a little bit more. I want to try and keep it kind of in that same shadow area, so I'll just kind of readjust it slightly and hit enter to apply it. And then I'll just fill in the skin tones and things like that to balance it out. So like this, and quickly just knock in the skin tone. Let me figure out where I got some natural skin tones so that the colors match for the most part. And if I'm having an issue with that, like I am right here, I'll just blend it in. It'll look just fine. Same over here. Looks good. And then fix that lip a little bit. It's going to be a big help. Something I'm noticing is that the shadow is still a little bit more defined. So I'm just going to grab that same magenta. Make sure that you have a swatch of your magenta, because it's very, very hard to find that selection of color that you used. You can't just eyedrop it, you know. I do think that there is a tool in here somewhere, which I never really use, where you can actually select the actual color that isn't being affected by the multiply layer, but I don't recall where that is, and I choose not to use it because it's just I'm so used to how I've done it over the years. I just don't really change my formula. I always love learning new stuff, but sometimes there's just formulas that just work, you know, and I stick with it. Especially when time is key and you might not have time to learn new techniques. That looks fantastic. He's going to love that. And if I was really desperate, the only thing I would need to really do to define this anymore would be to maybe put a little lip shine on him, which I don't even have any lip shine on my face, so why would I do that to him per se, if you know what I mean. So I think that we're basically wrapping this one up. That's the basics of color that I do on mine. When I do my technique, it's quick, it's simple, it's painless, and creates a very, very nice effect. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and I would love it if you would subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave a comment, and thank you so much for putting up with me being really quiet because my wife is asleep. I love you guys. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you've enjoyed this, stop on by my Patreon. Consider donating $1 a video. You can set limits. That way you don't have to pay $30 if I make 30 videos in a month like I did like 2 months ago. So thank you so much for all your support. We've got some big things coming up in my life personally, and your finances would be extremely helpful in these situations coming up. So thank you very much. God bless you guys. I love you. I'll see you next time. I'm trying to exit the screen, but I can't find my mouse. It's like on the screen in front of me, and I'm trying to take it to the over. Here we go. Bye.